Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
You sound very cheery tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Not feeling very chilly.
So what you're not feeling, you're making up for in the sound of the greeting. It is well.
How was your week this week? And then
Well,
addition, how was your week? Were you able to participate in any challenges that were posted any today?
Mm,
I
So for
didn't
the
see the one today.
challenge was about 5 day speaking kindly to yourself. So no
mm,
negative self-talk.
mm-hmm.
Speak kindly to yourself out loud or in your mind. Replace criticism with compassion. Give yourself grace daily. And then in the Be Fit group, it was no sugar for 5 days.
No sugar.
I
Yes,
saw that one.
no
Very
sugar.
good challenge.
Oh,
Yeah, this one screaming.
No processed sugars, fresh fruits and vegetables. Only raw,
mm,
natural juices allowed.
wow.
hmm
Mm, wow.
So you can still start.
Ah, wow.
You could still start.
It
Five.
works. It really works. And it
Mm,
actually helps you to burn fat.
mm,
Yeah. Because the body then starts to use up the stored fat. Remember, sugar stores as fat.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
So then it starts to burn from there.
So
I am
you
not a high fan of but I've maintained my size from almost eliminating the external sources of sugar.
Mm.
And, well, I slip a few times, but yeah,
No,
that and flour.
no soft drinks, etc.
None of that.
Okay.
But
Mm,
so you could look
you have
into it.
You have coconut water, you have your juices, you can eat your fruits, they have the sugar in them as a different kind of sugar. And you could make the fresh juice, just don't add any sugar.
Yes. Take a look at it and you could certainly join the challenge. And how has your week been thus far? How was your week last week?
My week was very good because I attended to one item on my list and I said I will do it every week. And this morning I was feeling so good. I thought perhaps I could move to 4 times a week now. And what is that? I am doing a brisk walk Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday mornings.
Mhm.
I walk a circuit. It was supposed to be 15 minutes in one direction and then turn and walk back home. And that will give you the 30 minutes of walking that I needed. But it's easier to just make the block. And so that is what I've been doing. So I started last week, I think it was last week, Monday. And I am really feeling proud of myself because when I got up this morning, I was looking outside and saying, and then I said, no, not get dressed and go out the road. And I did it, and it really set my day. I'm not a real exercise in the night person. By that time, my body is going down. But the fresh air, the sunshine, just the brisk walk. You see, not as walking past. I don't want anybody walking with me, but I was thinking that maybe you all could walk 30 minutes and we'll all be joined together wherever we are.
Well,
But it was really, I feel much better. I'm glad that I've picked out that item from my list and I'm determined to keep it going. So that was my week.
Okay. Anyone else? How has your week been? Was it the same old, same old? Did you encounter anything new? Did you have any epiphanies? Did you gain clarity on anything? No?
There was a bit of resolution within me on some things. And it came about because I had to reach out and perhaps share a few words of wisdom with someone else who was going through a disappointment. And in having to speak with that person, I had to look at my own self. And so there were things that I was saying to the person, but I was saying to myself at the same time, and making the resolution to operate in the manner in which I am telling the other person they should operate. So that was nice as well. That was nice as well.
Anyone else? How was your week this week? Was it manageable?
My week was challenging because I had a health issue,
Mm-hmm.
foot
Mm-hmm.
problems. Up to today, I had to go by Dr. Maraji vein specialist.
Okay.
But visiting him, things are on the up.
Very good. Very, very, very good. And just stay in that space. And I would even give you a joke. I think it was sometime last week. I was outside in the yard and I was passing by in Trinidad, we call it the big leaf time. I think in other places they call it Spanish time. You pass and I'm like, you hear something, say, you should start to drink this as tea. And I was like, drink that as tea? Then my sister and my aunt were having a conversation about the oil of oregano. And in other places of the world, Spanish time is known as oregano. So it have different variations based on where you are in the world. And when you look at the slew of health benefits of oil of oregano, from getting rid of parasites in your body to getting rid of mucus, because sometimes my allergies tend to go a particular way. And it had so many different benefits. So, of course, the first thing I usually do is you hop on Amazon to find oil of oregano. So then whilst it have capsules, it have a lot of different things. It have the oil itself. So while looking at it, something said, Anna, you have the actual plant in your yard and you're looking to go on Amazon to buy a reduced version of the plant that in your yard. So since then, I have been drinking it, of course, without sugar. Not even honey, actually, just with hot water. Because again, the thought always comes, but then what are we doing with it? Because I could have, because the first time, yes, I did. I went over it like, drink that. And then it wasn't even so bad. The taste really not so bad because it's very minty. And even before this, I was looking at doing a cleanse and all of that. And really and truly, if you slow down, you would recognize that you really have everything that you require. You're just unaware of it in the moment. But when you slow down enough, life always sending the messages. But we are not always paying attention because in the first instance, I was like, I don't know, I'm not drinking that. And then over here in the conversation with my aunt and my sister. And then it came across social media that oregano is big leaf time or Spanish time. And I was like, okay. So, yes, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
I was going to tell you, The only thing is, do not drink it when you're menstruating
Okay.
because it causes a heavier flow.
Okay.
Yes. Bushman's no good. Bush too good. I don't know what it's doing. Listen, do you know shadow Benny? When you boil it, it removes heavy metals from your body.
No.
Yes, it binds to the heavy metals and expels it from your bush tea good.
Well, I would include that as well in my
No sugar.
yes, 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 yes. And for those who just joined, welcome and good evening. And I know that tonight's topic is a topic that a lot of us deal with, which is reducing burnout and overwhelm, because we tend to experience it a lot. Especially now in the world where things are moving so fastly and you have so many different things happening all over. And even in the B Farm chat today, where it was mentioned that also the family dynamic has also changed. So, whereas in generations before you had one parent going out and one parent at home, now that is no longer the case because both parents have to work, well, in most instances, in order to maintain the household, or you even have instances where it's one parent doing both and one parent doing everything. So tonight we would really be looking at identifying, how do you recognize burnout within your own life? How do you recognize, okay, this is what I am experiencing, and because of this I am feeling maybe tired, overwhelmed. Sometimes you feel resentment at different things, people, places, situations, and then how best to really deal with it. But even within you and within yourself, how do you know that you are burnt out and overwhelmed?
I could speak on that. I'm talking about like recent because I don't know if you all remember like last week I was talking about everything that was going on at my job, and I decided, well, today is a holiday here. Today is Martin Luther King. So then I was like, I'll take Thursday, Friday, so I have like a 5 day weekend. Well, 5 day week off. And so I took off Thursday, and you would not believe I wasn't even able to get out of bed. I mean, I just laid in bed and slept and slept and slept. And like today is Monday, going back to work tomorrow, and I just now starting to feel like, I could get some things done around the house. I have the energy. And I didn't really realize how burnt out I was physically because you're just pushing past everything. Um like Adana was saying, like I'm a single parent. Um and it's like you're just doing what you have to do. So you have the Saturday, Sunday off. So Saturday is like you go grocery shopping, you do, and then Sunday is like preparing yourself to go back to work Monday and stuff like that. So for a while I've been feeling so confuffled. I mean, everything was chaotic. I mean, my job was chaotic, home life was chaotic, you know, everything. I was uneasy, agitated, and it's like you're trying to figure things out and, sort things out. And I would say, like, being part of Befitment, I had my one on one, you know, and then I was going through the conversation of what's going on. I talking about what's going on in my job, and I'm like, I'm not getting because they're explaining things like and asking, and I'm asking questions like, how do I cope with what's going on my job? Do I have to do this? I woke up one morning and I heard that listen to the podcast, and I started listening to the podcast, and you know, and it kept saying like that's doing, and I'm like, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. How do I just be and not do? And then I can't remember what statement was made. And then the light bulb went off. And it was simply everything that I was doing, like in the earlier part of 2025, which I would say is the core foundation and the four core principle for me. And it is simply stop, ask a question, get your direction, and follow through. And when this statement was made, and I was like, OMG. And it just goes to show that, because now I think I had pushed that to the side somewhat. And, we're talking about now, ask the soul um, what do you want to experience today? So, I started doing that and I kind of forgot about the stopping, the asking the question, getting the answer, and then following through. And, it also came to me that it's a foundation that you're building. You're building on the information. It's not one that you do instead of the other. It's like you're learning the core principles and you're just building and building and building on to the core principle. And I'm telling you, like, I'm an overthinker, over processor, over analyzer. And, one of the things that I'm grateful for is like, I know my brain is working overtime. So it's like acknowledging that, understanding that, and every time it happens, just like stopping yourself from your mind just wandering and stuff. And then reminding yourself of the tools, like physically telling yourself, well, Lisa, this is, if you do this, then, you don't have to do that, and even understanding that with the things that's happening at work, I'm not alone. Because once again, it's like I'm trying to control the situation. I'm trying to do what I think I need to do to control the situation instead of asking for the guidance to be to get the answer in terms of what to do. So I think that was a big thing for me, um, in understanding stuff, in helping with the chaos in your life, and being able to just like process things as it come.
That is certainly. It makes things a lot, I wouldn't say easier, but it makes things a lot more orderly. So that even when you are faced with something that might have usually been difficult for you to deal with, now it is a lot simpler because you see things a lot simpler and you're able to identify, okay, this is what is happening. Let me go back to what the basic tools are. Because again, we are all equipped with the map within, but if you are not following your map, what you tend to do is essentially you're really trying to make your own way, create your own path. And within doing that, you would recognize that you would encounter a lot of difficulties over and over and over. And then you would tend to say, well, life hard and things so hard, and why these things always happening to me. But do you stop and ask a question before you proceed? Or do you just get up and like the hamster on the wheel, and you just go, 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 go based on whatever yesterday's pattern was or whatever your last year's pattern was, not realizing or even recognizing that that pattern has now become obsolete and it can no longer carry you forward because it took you to where you were meant to go, but in able to take you even further, you really have to practice something new. Have you ever stopped and looked at certain patterns within your life and recognized, this really not working for me. This really not working.
I think that's exactly what was happening to me because all I was saying to myself is, and now that you understand the role that the ego plays, I knew that it was my ego, but it was just like, I know I'm a good employee. I know I've never had this experience before in any other job. So why is it happening now? And why can't they see that I'm a good employee? So it's like you're trying to prove yourself to them based on where you were before and how you worked before. And it's not like you have to prove yourself to anybody, but
Mm,
it's just learning to adapt, and learning how to work out this situation that you're presently in and not try to bring the old way of dealing with things because into the new. So here I am in a new space with new people. They require different things, I guess. You know, the way they look at things is different. And that was one of the other things that I had to understand. Like, this is my perception and this is how I'm seeing it. Their perception or they're doing their job because they have to do what they have to do. But I also need to do what I have to do to be able to, get the job done. And it's not about them, it's about me.
yeah. Yes. 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 And you would recognize that everything, and I know the first time hearing this, it was a bit difficult. Everything is a reflection of you. You. Everything starts with you and everything can end with you. Because the day that you get up and you decide, enough of this, it will be the end of it. But if you still, last week, the topic was looking at commitment. So if you're 1 foot in, you're 1 foot out, those are the results that you would get constantly. But if you really, the day we make up your mind, and it's usually so sad that the day you make up your mind is because you have no other choice. You end up by the doctor, or you have something that happened to you that was really, really traumatic. So usually those are the days that you make up your mind. And imagine if we had, make up our minds about certain things and just move forward with it, where we would be right now. And you really decide, I'm committing to this. Come what may, I am committing to this. Imagine where you would be right now. Even if it's going back to school, you always wanted to learn to play a particular instrument, or you always wanted to learn to drive, you never rode a bike. How many different things that you would experience freely if you had really said, I am committing to this, I am sticking to this. And then sometimes another form is burnout, is always jumping, 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 jumping. So because you can't make up your mind about one thing, you keep jumping, jumping, jumping to other things. And in doing so, you never really have whatever is the first thing that you started completed. So in doing so, you always have a lot of uncompleted activities or tasks or goals or ideas, and they are never fully executed. And then sometimes you look back at your life and you find, what I really accomplished? What did I really accomplish over this period of time? But were you able to commit to one activity, to one goal, to achieving one thing? Or are you constantly overthinking, and because of it, you can't complete one thing? And that would also send you into feeling burnt out and overwhelmed. Nicola, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So in terms of, I know we talk about patterns all the time, but what can we do as it relates to psychology to really get yourself out of self limiting patterns so that you don't experience as much burnout and overwhelm that you're currently experiencing.
And I feel like the first thing you need to do is be willing, right? Because with the willingness or becoming willing and becoming open is where you would find that it would kind of flow naturally. So you identify that this is an area that I would like to see some sort of transition in my life. And because of that as well, then you would start to identify the patterns. So you would know, again, tied in with self-awareness. Now you know what you need to do, what you need to not do, because you know, okay, every time I do this, this is most of the time the result of it. So let me try something new. And I feel like with everything that is being explained now, I'm learning is like once you're willing, and I think as Lisa was saying to you, sit and you ask yourself the questions, what you need to do would come to you as to help you to come out of that area. But I feel like the first thing is mentally you need to be willing.
Yeah. And just as you were speaking, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with my cousin. With the same willingness and what flows to you naturally. And in speaking to him, I think right now, I can't remember where he is anyway. And I was asking him, so what you doing now? Because I know he graduated from doing his bachelor's. So he's doing his master's. So I asked him, so what you doing your master's in? And he said, chemistry. And I was like, why? Because from my perspective, it's a lot. And then his response was, Adana, this has come so naturally to me. He said it easy. And imagine chemistry at the master's level is easy for certain persons. So, really, what Nicola is saying, you're really recognizing it is true because my perception was, why? Like, why are you putting yourself through that? And he was like, no, it's flowing so easy, so naturally, and he really enjoying it because it have so many avenues to go down. So you could either go the cosmetics avenue, you could go where you're working with forensics in terms of checking out the chemistry of drugs and stuff. You could go into pharmaceuticals, so it have a lot of different avenues. So it is very exciting, but again, it is really important that you are open to really experiencing something and developing a new pattern within your world. But would you say for yourself, in terms of when new opportunities come, do you tend to receive it or do you, close up?
For me, I do still run and hide sometimes according to what the opportunity is initially. And then again, I would have that sense of self talk with myself. And, as I was dealing with the Biscuit students, then I would always tell them, that nothing or change don't come from your comfort zone. So nothing grows from being inside of your comfort zone. And because you want to expand, life would have presented an opportunity for you to expand. So it's about taking the opportunity. So my goal for 2026, or one of my biggest goals for 2026, is working on that fear that I have. So now I would push through and do what I have to do or whatever. But initially, I would run and hide.
Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yes. As you were speaking, one of the things that we also want to do is when you ask the question and the thought comes to you, you get the answer. That is not the time to go and ask other people what they think of that idea.
Oh,
You ask the question, and within self has answered. The universe has shown you the way. But we tend to still want to go now and ask for people. An idea came to me, what you think? And the person is unable to think because that is not for them, that is not in their space. So if we really put some more doubt, and then we allow the energy of the other people, all four doubting Thomases, who do not even understand what they're being asked. And now you're back to the same level of confusion. And worse now, because now we have four other opinions to overthink and overanalyze with. So when you ask the question and the thought comes, the response comes, just believe it
Mm-hmm.
and walk in that. And as we discussed a large amount of times last year, keep your mouth shut. One of the things that I always learned when I got into business was you must have an accountability partner. Tell everybody your idea because they will keep you accountable and they will hold you to thing. They will make sure you do it. And I used to follow that. And I could think of several projects that are incomplete. Several. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I move towards is don't bother to tell anybody everything. If something comes, if the person you're speaking to must know it because it's a part of how you're going to get the thing done, that is it. Everybody else, just sit down and guess and be amazed because that lets in, well, I want to say that lets out the energy that you're supposed to be using to follow through with the answer that you got.
I
So
could,
that is what I wanted to see.
I could attest to that accountability partner because I tried that as well, and I don't think it lasts a month. I think we probably check in with each other once, and it didn't go past that one check-in. And I tried it with different people, and it
Mm-hmm.
don't work. Well, at least it didn't work for me either.
Because really, the only person you're really accountable to yourself, right? Because do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to grow? Do you want to expand? Do you want to have new experiences? Because you know what I recognize too in life, and just with everyone in general, including me, especially before, we all expect life to be easy and things to be easy. And we expect that if we do certain things, life should be easy and things should be easier. And then within that space, what you're really doing is blocking yourself off from experiencing new things. And the expectations that you're holding to is really based on past experiences. And because of that, you're limiting yourself to new experiences because of old expectations instead of approaching life from a neutral state and really seeing what comes and dealing with it as it comes. You know, because even yesterday, we went to a ice cream pop-up, a very popular brand in Trinidad. And at first, well, I wanted to, usually, you want to reach the place early because online the lines are horrendous when you look at online what usually happens anywhere this pop-up is. So I wanted to leave at 2 because it opens at 3. Because again, expectations, you're expecting a long line because that is what usually happens. Didn't leave until about after 4. So now you're thinking, well, I'm telling Melissa, say by the time we reach there, all we're going to buy is water because everything else sell out. So we reach, and while there, as soon as we reached, so my sister went to park a little higher, but it had closer park. So I called her to come and park closer. So while I'm there, I was approached by one of the workers and she said, "Hi, you just reached." So I said, "Yeah." So she said, "Come, let me, you know what you want?" I said, "No." So they have the menus, the honey, the menus one time. She said, "I want you to join this short line." And I was like, "Wonderful." I said, "I'm not by myself, I'm with my cousins." So I called everybody and, we were able to get through very quickly. And then today, in a conversation with another cousin, she was expressing that this is a good venue for events. So, we would look into it and do site visits and find out what the options are and stuff. And again, if I had decided, listen, all you're leaving too late, by the time we reach there, all I have to sell is water because everything's sold out. I'm not going again. It would have been a different experience because I would have had expected that the lines, and I tell you, when we went there, it had no big set of people this time, It had people, yes, but like times before when you see the long lines and you have to wait so long and it's like an hour and a half to get through, it was not that at all. So that is my example of how even for me, you really have to remain open because you don't know. You really, really don't know what is coming. And if you remain open, you would have better experiences. You would have, a lot of things would be more fulfilling. Lisa, I saw that you had your hand up and then you removed it.
I was just thinking, like, when you're asking about steps, I think acknowledgement and acceptance is important.
Hmm.
Because, like, for me, it's like acknowledging what I was going through now that I know differently. And that's part of the thing. Sometimes, you know, for the people that's in befitment and have the knowledge, we would have, a a deeper understanding. But there are so many people who really don't have or still don't really understand how, the intuition, as you say, I get the intuition. Um, so kind of accepting and acknowledging the situation at hand helps to kind of put things into perspective as well. So that's what I wanted to say.
Because you really have to start from wherever you are. And you see, another thing that does really, really hold us back and does create even more burnout and overwhelm is looking back and the self guilt and guilt tripping yourself. Because where you were before, you did what you knew. And where you are now, you could practice something different because you know different things. Staying from where you are to condemn yourself, and we tend to put ourselves through the rigor. Well, I should have, and I could have, and I would have. But start from wherever you are in life. It could be from wherever, even the persons with one of, a lot of them are the most successful businesses, they started at 60, sometimes even later than that. But just start from wherever you are. Yesterday was yesterday. And if you are able to stay in the present moment again, then you would be able to really discover what is required for you. What is required for you is not found in thoughts of yesterday or worrying about tomorrow. Trust me.
And then I
It's
just want to add as well, because sometimes what we tend to do as well, as you go back to the experiences, sometimes they tend to sit down, well, the last time I had this to do, it take me about 3 days. So now this one going and take about 4 days because I have additional things to do. And one time you put up a mental block and you put yourself in that space because you're focusing on a past experience when this time is this time, and things could go completely different. It take you 2 hours. Normally something that might take you 3 days will take you 2 hours, and you finish a lot faster and a lot easier. But we
mm-hmm,
really tend to hold on to the past experiences. And
mm-hmm,
I feel like it's really about, as Lisa was saying, to being open and accepting of whatever the situation is. And once you're going with that sense of open mind, you tend to see the change or see the difference.
yeah,
And it tends to take away from the burnout and the pressure of it. And as you were saying, if you know that right now you need rest, you're not beating up on yourself that you need rest. This is what my body requires. So, like for me, I believe that it should have a day between Sunday and Monday. I don't know if they've ever created, but between Sunday and Monday, need one extra day. I don't know how we doing it. I don't know. If we focus, we energy, it might happen. If everybody decide that we put our energy there, but you need rest today, you rest. And then tomorrow you get up and do what you have to do. Because like that was me yesterday too. I needed rest. So yesterday I just sleep, I sleep, I sleep. And then after that I was like, oh, I had a prep for B Squad for this weekend with the activities and stuff. And even this morning when I got up, because I woke up early this morning to prep, um, first of all, nothing wasn't coming. And the last time nothing wasn't coming, I was like, what's going on? So you're trying to think, and it's like, what to do, and you're not thinking. And then the lady would message me. I was like, oh, I have no session today. I was like, oh, that's why.
yeah.
And yesterday, I started to go down the road of beating up on myself because I needed rest. And then I had to stop myself and be like, the last time you beat up yourself and all the other times before, you needed rest. And then everything ended up working out. So rest. And then this evening, everything would work out how it needs to work out. And everything did work out perfectly fine. So
Mhm.
the self-awareness comes in as well to know this is something I'm accustomed doing and this is usually the result. So now I need to do something or doing something differently to get a different result.
Yes. Because how much simpler things would be if we just, even whatever you are experiencing, remind yourself, listen, I've experienced even things probably even worse than whatever you're currently experiencing, and it always tends to work out. So why do you think that this is not going to? And remember, working out is not what you think it should work out as, eh? Because again, we always expect things to be easy, and we tend to expect things to be with the least amount of effort, but we always have to put effort in. We always, I think, after we finish school, like we just have this ideal, well, okay, I have my degree, I have my whatever, my master's, my doctorate, and life should be easy now, right? Because I put so much effort into school, but it does not work like that. The effort continues even after you have left school. The effort is required every day at different degrees. Sometimes you might require 100% effort, tomorrow you might require 40. The days that you require 40 and you give 40, that is 100% of what you had for that day. You really don't have to beat up yourself about it. And you would recognize too that all the burnout and the overwhelm that we experience is really self-inflicted, because you don't know how to pause and regulate you and manage you. And then your body always giving you the signs. But again, what we tend to do, we tend to ignore it. So even in moving forward with whatever you might be experiencing, you really have to pay attention to what is happening with you. What is happening with you? So I know that you could identify the signs, but even after identifying the signs, okay, what is required for me in this moment? You don't have to guilt trip yourself. You don't have to beat up on yourself. What is required? And how do you manage it better? How do you reduce instances of it? So even in a situation where, even if it might be a difficult person at work or whatever it is, you know what this person is going to give. So why still beat up yourself about it? Okay, it is what it is, and you just move on from there. Because again, a lot of times we put the mental strain on situations, and you're replaying certain things in your mind over and over and over, not recognizing the effects that it is really having. Because I have been observing, you know, we come on here and we give the lessons and the teachings and the wisdom, but I have been observing recently, just hearing about different experiences with different persons, um, that people have now been dealing with the effects of their choices. And having to deal with the effects of your choices is not a simple thing at all. It can be very, very complicated, because in dealing with it, a lot of times you end up affecting you, you end up affecting your body. And now you're in and out of the hospital, sorry to say, because this is really, guys, I'm not sure if you all recognize, but it is really your world. I know this is something that we discussed throughout the week. So for those who not there, you really are creating your world, and at the same time, while you are creating your world, the choices that you make impact in your world as well. So you really, really have to be mindful. You're real, and we don't understand, and a lot of times you can't even connect the dots, and you might even end up by the doctor and you're wondering, how did you end up here? You know how you end up here? From the overthinking, from the burnout, from the overwhelm, from the constant anxiety, from the stress, from staying in familiar patterns, from being resistant to change, from not wanting to experience anything new. That is how you end up there. And you see all those things accumulated day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It is landing somewhere. And I have been seeing a lot of persons now having to deal with the results of their choices. And, because of empathy and sympathy, you tend to feel a particular way about it. But then at the end of the day, guys, you are creating your world and you are also impacting your world even more than you realize. And be careful that the choices that you are making are not to your detriment, because these choices, they are accumulating, and life, the universe, taking stock. Yes, Lisa, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, like what you was talking about, I think for myself, and I think for like my siblings, I could talk a little bit about us, based on the upbringing, like with, no, my mom and my dad, they did what they did what they knew. But for me, it's like I could look at, as a parent, you be like, okay, I don't want my children to experience what I went through. And, I want to give them the best. But in giving them the best, we are sacrificing ourselves, and we don't really realize how much we are enabling them instead of helping them to become more independent, more resilient. And it just gets to a point like, your kids are older now and you're like, well, why are you doing this or why are you doing that or but you didn't give them the tools to become self-sufficient, and now for you as the parent, you frustrated, you angry, and it's like what you're saying, it's trying to take a toll on your body because, they are doing what they want to do. They're living their life based on their life plan, based on where they are. And you're like, well, I gave so much, or I put so much into you. I feel like you should probably be giving back to me. And we tend to get ourselves caught up in that cycle. And we tend to not realize that being in that cycle and enabling our children, like you said, it's coming back to us and we are getting to start to feel the ailments, the pains, the frustration, so once again, it's kind of not beating yourself up. Like I was having a conversation today and it was like, okay, well, you did the best that you could have done based on what you know, but we also have to stand firm, take accountability, and realize now that we know better, do better. But sometimes as a parent, you're like, well, if I do this, what the child would think or how they would feel, or, you're hurting their feelings and you still want to give of yourself, even though you don't have it in you to give. You still want to push past that and not realizing you have to stop and really focus on you. Give yourself that attention. It's not you're not in a world where it's only you, but you have to pour into you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give to these, to your children. And sometimes, your family and your children, and so they're the ones that you tend to feel more attached to. And they're the ones that you feel like you're more obligated to do things for, you know. But at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
To you yourself, you giving and giving and giving up to them, and like I said, we don't realize that we are really enabling them instead of allowing them to blossom and be there to support them if they should fall and bump their knee. But you're like, no, I will fall for you. I want to fall for you. I don't want you to fall. But then Later down the road, you fall, you fall, you fall. Now, you get older, your bones brittle, your bones break. You know what I mean? But you didn't realize in you taking that fall for them all the time, you harming yourself.
Yeah. And then you're harming them too, because they're not equipped to deal with life's challenges as the challenges come. And you see, and even for me before, well, earlier, before my mommy died, that is what you see, you would move through life fearless, because you know if you fall tomorrow, your mother go catch you. Your mother is a net. My mother was a big fishing net. She used to catch a lot of people. If you fall, you could fall freely, free fall. You sure. And then you see, in doing so, to an extent, we are handicapped as children. And when life's challenges come, we crumble because we never get the experience to learn how to manage this, how to manage stress, how to deal with it. So, yes, we certainly, we tend to crumble until we are strong enough to actually manage it better and manage it for ourselves. And even for the generation before myself, the parents, remember, guys, also, you all were doing the best with the resources that you had at the moment in time. Remember that you were doing the best with the resources you had. I know sometimes you tend to look back and you say, well, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. But you have to remember also, we are in a different time, and the access we have to information and to well-being stuff, it is way more. You all didn't have that access. You all had, the other day we were talking about encyclopedias. You all had encyclopedias. And encyclopedias, even in itself, was very limited, and you were doing your best in that moment. And even your parents before you were even doing their best in that moment, and the choices that they made, they thought that that was the best. But again, we are starting from here right now. It is not about looking back and beating up yourself, because in that moment, did you know something different or something better? No. So now that you do, you just make a different choice. So I'm seeing, I think Catherine's hand went up first, and Anastasia, I will come to you after.
As Lisa was speaking, and she used the phrase, we wanted to give our children the best, a little bulb went off. And maybe one of the things we need to do is reframe or rephrase what given the best is.
Mm-hmm,
Meaning that when we said it, we would think in terms of things or experiences. You want the children to have things that you didn't have, and experiences, only pleasant experiences that you had. You did not want anything that you would have considered negative or lacking to befall the children. And from going through the befitment way and the befitment system, and you're learning, you're understanding now that perhaps we need to reframe what the best is, giving the children the best, and also to continue the sentence, you're giving the best of yourself. But in the reframing, it is not the best of your sacrificing and you're giving of yourself until you just a wet rag that has been squeezed out of life and you have no enjoyment. But given the truth,
mm-hmm,
walking in your truth, so that they understand this is what it is about. You're not trying to be something that you're not. You're not trying to be the be all and the end all for everybody. You building you. And when they can see your example of you walking like that, then that is really giving of your best, giving them the best. And that is what came to me just now when Lisa was talking about, because what we used to do we would consider giving them the best and leaving the rest for ourselves. And many times there is no rest. There's not even scraps, not even crumbs. We have all heard the tales of even physically the parents who walk the street with torn up clothes while the children have the best. The parents who went hungry without a meal so the children could eat. That that was not showing the children the best of yourself. So they would either take those patterns and go with them now, or they would rebel against those patterns. Me, I ain't giving up nothing for you. I seen about me. And this is where we have arrived at in the world where the current generation, the younger generation, they are focused on themselves. And they are challenging what we came up with. And so we are finding a little pushback now, and we're finding ourselves uncomfortable because the expectation that we had that they would do certain things for us or they would behave in a certain way, well, that is just plain not happening. And so I know for me, it's a question of let it go, Catherine. You have to let go that expectation. You have to let go that thinking. Either let it go or it will drag you to your death. And me, I plan to be around for another 60 or so years. So it is well known. So you have to just reframe what it is, the definition of what giving your best is to your children, and then just as you said, focus on yourself. That's the only way. Whatever life you have left in your body, focus on you. They'll come along from your good example, your proper, your truthful example
Mm-hmm.
of how to
Because
do.
even in what you were saying, and I recognize it as well, because the generation, as I said before, you all were trying the best that you all knew at that point in time, and because that you experienced certain things, you wanted to circumvent certain things from us. But in doing so, things got very limited for us in terms of our experiences. And of course, now that you know a different way, because shielding us from the bad, looking back at it now, and then that's the thing. And usually during the week, we are told we always measuring good and bad, not recognizing that everything is one. Everything is one because the leaves on the trees have to wither. The flower also has to wither. So life, when you look at life, everything experiences the ebbs and the flows. But for some reason, we always trying to extend the ebbs, the flows, and not experience any ebbs. But everything is one. So if you really continue trying to shield the, as Nicola would say, the uncomfortable feelings, then you would recognize you're really not getting life's true experience. And that is why later on in life, a lot of us tend to struggle because you're shielded so much that you think that this is all that there is. And you see in instances where you don't have mommy and daddy again to fall back on or to shield, and you get the full brunt of life, you really experience some challenges and difficulties. Because just as we are learning, what we consider to be bad is not bad. It is necessary, it is required, it is a part of life, and we really need to start to see everything as one and not just the good parts alone. Yes, Anastasia, I apologize because I know your hand was up a while.
Good night. I was listening to Lisa, and I am at that junction in my life where I have to learn to take, scrape some things off of my plate where my children are concerned and what I am doing for them. And I also have grandchildren in mix as well. And it is a difficult transition for me. It is so difficult. I do not know where to start from, but I know it have to happen because it is draining me. Yeah, I start to feel the drain. you know, and I need to put things in place. And I know it is going to mean that people is going to be upset with me, and I will hear all kind of different things being said, and from all now I'm starting to build myself and toughen up myself to face the backlash of it, you know.
Yeah.
But it has to be done in order for me to save myself whatever little bit of energy I have remaining. As Catherine say, whatever I have remaining is for you now, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, so
And Anastasia, let me give you a little pointer. I know you are on during the week, and I don't know if you remember when we were told, put what you already have in order. When you don't know where to start, that is where to start. Put what you already have in order. And you know it have certain things, the thoughts come in, do this, do that, get up earlier, drink more, whatever it is, you know what it is. So you could even put pen to paper, write it down, look at it, and see what is the best or most efficient way. But start by putting what you already have in order. And that would mean a lot of different things for different people, but sit with it for you and see what comes.
and the whole thing about it is, that you have to give up some of the things because it is draining you, but yet still some part of you telling you that you could go ahead and do it, man. You understand? You could do that. Eh,
Mm,
Some part, I don't know if it's your mind or whatever it is telling you that yes, you could still do it. But you're feeling the strain in your body, after going with it, at the end of the night, all you're feeling, all the tiredness and all the draining. But some part of you telling you, yes, man, you could do that. You used to do that before. Why you can't do that now?
no,
You
no,
ain't so
okay.
old.
Listen, let me give you another example. This was an example that was given, I think it was last year, early last year, or year before, when Quinton used to be on the Mondays. And I can't remember what was the topic, but we were discussing like holding on to certain things, or like, I know it was a scenario between spouses. So, whatever happened, and then you decide, well, I'm not talking to you, or whatever, 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 and you hold that. Or even you have instances where you're getting the thought, go and exercise, go and exercise, go and exercise, and you're still not doing it. Remember what is happening, and the thought that is coming, Anastasia, is that your soul know, because your soul is the connection. And the thing is, your soul is trying to let you know, pay attention to this, light bulb going off, pay attention to this, light bulb going off, pay attention to this. And you see, when you don't pay attention, is when you end up in situations and circumstances that you don't want to. Because just as Lisa said, when she went off, she didn't recognize how tired she was. And Anastasia, it is the same thing. Sometimes you're going and you're going and you're going, and you don't recognize how tired you are, and your soul trying to give you the blinker, the red light, like, hey, slow down, because while your soul might know where you're heading, you currently unaware. So that is why your soul trying to get you to slow down and pay attention, because you really don't, you might want to experience what coming, because it might be very uncomfortable, or we all don't want to end up by the doctor having to deal with different things. But slow down and pay attention, because those thoughts are not happening by chance. They are not coming by chance. They are coming to try to show you a better way than what you are currently doing. And sometimes I remember once I was told, you stressing about having the conversation or about doing whatever thing, and you're thinking that people would think a particular way, and the road to have that conversation already paved and waiting for you to just walk, and is you keeping you back. And what you think might be the outcome may not even be the outcome. So take this step. Take this step, Anastasia. I know it might be difficult, but take this step. Lisa, I seen that you have your hand raised. I know
Yeah,
Catherine.
what even before Anastasia said what she said, my thing was A lot of times, as parents, we kind of afraid of the kid throwing the tantrum. I don't want to deal with the tantrum. But we have to realize that it is okay for them to have the tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay for them to, and we have to be okay with them having the tantrum. Because once again, we're trying to avoid them having to. I don't want them to think bad. Just like what you said, I know it coming. I know they'll say this. I know that is not. I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but that is not your business because you have to safeguard you. And one of the key things I know, like with me, that I've started to do is, you have things that you want to say, you have things that need to be done or need to be said. You ask the question and you wait for the time that you are directed to have the conversation. And just like Adana is saying, the path is already laid out. But if you go and you kind of talk out or turn when it's not the right time to have the conversation, then you would probably get the backlash. I know they would say, and I know it. But if you wait until you're directed to have the conversation, you ask about, what should be said, how it should be said. And the people that on the receiving end is probably going to receive it a lot differently than you expect or you think that they're going to receive it. So don't talk like I was saying before. You don't walk the walk without walking the walk with being in alignment. Because if you go and you just do it on your own, I just feel to cuss this person out, yeah, and you go and you do it, you remember that's the response you would get. But if you go in and you sit in your quiet time and you're like, okay, what should be said? How should it be said? And they say, okay, we'll have a family conversation, and it would just flow. It would just flow, and the conversation does go smooth. It doesn't mean that you get the change right away or immediately, but like I've had a conversation with my daughter, and trying to, and she's like, oh, I understand what you're saying. I see your perspective. I see this. I see that. So it's just having the conversation. Like I said, everything is in due time. Having the conversation in the right time, under the right circumstances, where you speak in a way that they would receive what you're saying, and they would also be in a space where they are open to receiving what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about knowing that for right now, 2026, I need to sever, cut the umbilical cord, because it's time that you guys start being adults, and start to take on some of the responsibility. But the flip side of that is nobody could do anything to you that you don't allow them to do to you. So if you continue to guilt trip yourself and say, well, I know they're going to say this, so I'm still going to push through, then that's what they're going to allow you, because that's what they're used to. But once you know that it is okay for you to stand firm and put your foot down and say, I am not accepting this anymore. I am more important to me. I've given you all everything that I've given you all. I raised you to have, the understanding, the knowledge. Yeah, I'm still here to support you, but I don't feel like I have to give you 60% of myself and keep 40 for myself. So you have to get to that place within yourself, which, it seems like you're already there, that I am no longer willing to give 60% of myself. But you just have to know that there's a right time to have the conversation, and you sit in your quiet time, find out when is the right time when it comes to you, and you step out and you have the conversation. And it's probably going to be a lot better and a lot smoother than you anticipating right now.
Yeah.
I just want to add something to what Lisa was saying, because sometimes it's not even you having to initiate the conversation; they just start the conversation. Because I know I would have had experiences where one person in particular, I would always want to talk about something, and before I would try to bring it up, right time, well, I guess it was the wrong time, but I would try to bring it up and it wouldn't work. And then what I started to do was hush, but I know that I want to have this conversation. And they would start the conversation. They would just start to talk about whatever the topic is. And I'd be like, oh, it's so easy. I didn't even have to say a word. And then I realized that it started to happen over and over and over. And I was like, oh, well, I don't have to do nothing. I just had to know I want to have this conversation with you and hold it. Whether it take 3 months, 6 months, I never used to hold to, oh God, it's taking so long to happen. I know I want to have the conversation. And if it happens 6 months after, it happened 6 months after. And I had to say nothing. And they would just open up and start to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it would end because I know I coming from a space, because I know, all right, I already wanted to have the conversation. I wasn't going in, I was going in from a space of neutral. So whatever the end result, the end result is,
Mm-hmm.
and no conflict at all. But before, when I was trying to have it on my own, was conflict, was drama.
Yeah. And Anastasia, no catching have a hand raised. I just need to say one thing. I know we were told some time ago that your responsibility is to your own soul. So that is something also to really keep in mind. Your responsibility is to your own soul. And if right now your soul saying, listen, we need to manage some things a little better, you really need to pay attention. And as just as everybody is telling you, the conversation might happen so effortlessly that you might ask yourself, why didn't do this about 6 years ago again? You know? So just be present, and when the time comes, everything will be okay. Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Anastasia, you know I was coming to tease you. Girl, if it's one thing that I am working on right now is what do I want? What do I want? And what does it look like? And one of the things, we always talking about the relationship that we want, this wonderful, loving relationship. So I put up this picture now that I must be looking a particular way. Nobody is there asking God for the most wrinkled, burdened, bothered companion that he could find and that the universe could find. So put that little picture in your mind when you're studying how difficult it might be to give up what you've been doing and change your behavior. Because one question I remember, or statement I remember from one of the conversations that we would normally have between Tuesday and Thursday, is that 100 years ago, this person was not your relative. A million years ago, was that person your relative? Was that person your daughter? Was that person your son? Were you there? Was that a relationship? So it is now. And so now has to be managed. And for me, I have decided that it's not really as simple as it sounds, but one of the steps I've taken is, listen, adulthood looks like something. And if you put it out there that you're an adult. Adulting looks like something. Adulting looks like your bills. Adulting looks like everything else. They do not look like my wallet, because that is what an adult does. So when you put what you want to see for yourself, you have to put yourself front center. Let your why be greater than anything that's going on around you. And when you look at your why do you want, what do you want going forward, and why do you want it for yourself? It becomes easier to flick off the barnacles, because barnacles do not fall off just by themselves. You have to pry them off. You could do so lovingly, like when you see them cleaning the barnacles off the dolphins and whatnot, and you see they're doing it lovingly. But what do you want for yourself? And if it's a relationship, let me tell you something. I ain't buying anybody. Relationship have me walking the street 15 to 30 minutes on the morning. Because I say, if I'm asking for someone who takes care of themselves and they look a particular way, I cannot even walk 5 minutes without blowing. I have to be what I want to be. And that is what has me on the road 3 times a week, 2026. So let you be the focus. And as Lisa and Nicola and Adana said, the way will open up for those conversations. You would not have to go and initiate anything. Just keep in mind that this is what I want to see, and the conversation might not even come up because what you want to see
Will have,
might start happening.
yeah,
So, without even having a conversation, you want people to stop dropping the children by you, you will suddenly find they're going somewhere else. Or they have so because the universe is working out every step.
yep,
So sometimes you need not speak a word. There may be no conversation. Once you know what you want and you know what it looks like, there it is.
yeah. And that is really important, Anastasia. Be clear on what you want, because if what you currently have in your head is everything that you don't want, trust me, it is going to pile on and on and on, and that bucket is going to overflow. So, really have a clear idea of what you want and ensure also that your intentions are clear. And it would certainly appear. So, guys, I know that we discussed a lot of things tonight, but I hope that in moving forward that you are able to easily identify when you are feeling overwhelmed, and also some of the tools, because I know for some of you you have certainly been practicing some tools, and for others this might be the opportunity for you to start to practice other tools in order to mitigate feelings of overwhelm and burnout. And before I let you know what the topics are for this week, because of course, you know, we will be going in depth this week with this topic. And as I said last week, also, these topics are really important, especially at the start of the year, to really get a handle of it so that your 2026 experience can be even better than all the years before. So, does anyone have any questions? All right, so let me let you know what we have happening this week at the Balance Center. So, of course, tonight we looked at reducing burnout and overwhelm. And from tomorrow, 6 p.m., we would be looking at motivation and dysfunctional mindsets. Poor structures will exhaust long before effort is worn. So, again, this is really important. Anastasia, make sure, don't forget. And then, of course, from 7, we have our Be Fit Fuel and Flexible Body Workout. On Wednesday, we have counseling and consultations, of course, from 10. And then from 6, we would be looking at redesigning the way you live and work, where we would be discussing structure that supports abundance instead of survival. Ensure that you also have your pen and your paper, because you see the little ladders that you are seeing below, that is to tell you the depth of the conversations. So for the Wednesday, you're seeing the 3 ladders below designing the way you live and work. That would be the depth of the conversation. So ensure that you are equipped to take notes. On Thursday from 10, we have counseling and consultations. And then from 6, we will be looking at replacing hustle with structure, creating rhythms that increase clarity and consistency. And of course, the mind elevation would for that day would be 2 ladders. And from 7, we would be having our Be Fit Fuel and Flexible Body Workout. On Friday, we have counseling and consultations. And then from 3 p.m., we have Free to Be, where you celebrate, relax, restore, and unwind. This, of course, is by appointment only. And on Saturday from 4 p.m., we have our Be Fit Burn Reloaded. For those who can't physically make it, you could join us online on Facebook or Instagram Live. We would be streaming it live as well. And this is our Beef It Burn, Saturday, the 24th of January. Of course, it is free, and the location is at the Balance Center, Shagona. Starts at 4:30 p.m. If you would like to register, you could text the word burn to 3361809, and it is brought to you by our sponsors, Regal and Universal. And on the 28th of January, from 2 to 2:30 p.m., it is a short session. So if you're at your desk, you could also message us, same 3361809 to register. And the topic, because we have been talking about performance for a really long time, is peak performance without burnout. So, sometimes at work, you're experiencing a lot of burnout and you would like to know how to manage yourself even better. So, if it is something that you are interested in, feel free to message us to let us know so that we could send you the link to join. Or even if you think that your company might be interested, you could message us and we could send the information over to the company that you are currently working with. So, guys, before we leave, I just wanted, I came off of it, sorry. But let me just share one post for you from the app. So, of course, this is our beautiful app. Let me just take off this little screen here. And we would be looking at mindfulness. When you plant your feet firmly from wherever you are in life, you intuitively discover your next steps, not through force or fear, but through intuition, awareness, and a deeper sense of alignment. And I would be reading from this paragraph. No, this one. Planting your feet is an act of gathering intelligence. It is the shift from external compass, spinning wildly with others' expectations and societal benchmarks, to an internal gyroscope. From this place of stability, you begin to listen. Intuition, that soft, often ignored voice, gains volume. It speaks not in detailed 5 year plans, but in whispers of resonance. The sense of yes, that feels like an exhalation, or a no, the tightness, or a no that tightens the gut. This is the intelligence of the whole self, not just the anxious mind. Awareness naturally sharpens. You see your current landscape with new eyes. You inventory your actual resources, not just your skills and resume, but your energy, your values, the people who truly sustain you. You discern what in your life is structural and what is merely clutter. This is not navel gazing, it is the essential recognizance required for any meaningful advance. So, guys, again, look within, look within, look within, ask the question. If you are interested, you could continue reading the entire message, and it is under mindfulness in the app. I hope you all have a wonderful week. And as I say again, see some of you tomorrow. Don't forget to work with your notepad pen. And I will see the rest of you next week, Monday. Have a wonderful night. Remember to identify wherever you are feeling the overwhelm and burnout, and make a different choice. This is the opportunity to make a different choice. So have a good night, everyone, and have a wonderful week.
Good
Good
You have
night.
Good
you
night.
have a good night.